Good morning. We'd like to call the Kankakee County full board meeting for February 14th to order. Today's invocation is from Chad Miller.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please listen with an attitude of prayer. Most compassionate and loving God, we gather as those who are making decisions, seeking to improve our communities. We have much to pray for, good and gracious God. Give us an openness to listen to our community's needs. Give us joyful spirits and an eagerness to engage others. Give us hopeful imagination and creative vision. Please help us focus on each other's qualities and on our common ground instead of our differences. We give thanks for giving us the capability and patience to see things from different perspectives and the ability to respect those who have different points of view. Help us to always respect this sacred space. We ask that you would guide our thoughts and actions to bring you glory. We thank you for your goodness, your mercy, and your grace. Help us to carry these wonderful gifts in our hearts and our lives. Lord, bless us here today and give our work success. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could I get a motion to admit Mrs. Weber into the meeting remotely? Mr. Eckhoff, second. Mr. Featherling. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess. Present. Mr. Tholen. Mrs. Polk. Mr. Snipes.
Present.
Mr. Seroy.
Present.
Mrs. Weber.
Present.
Mrs. Parker.
Present.
Mr. Fairfield.
Present.
Mr. Carrico.
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Present.
Mr. Swanson.
Present.
Mr. Featherling.
Present.
Mr. Donnell. Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Long.
Present.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Present.
Mr. Hunter.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand.
Present.
Ms. Foster.
Present.
Ms. Andrade.
Present.
Ms. Armour Earps.
Present.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Present.
Ms. Monday.
Here.
Ms. Ritmanick-Emmy.
Present.
Mr. Scanlon. Ms. Turner.
Present.
Mr. Wheeler.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. No requests for public comment today. No vacancy or presentations. I do have a proclamation. Wanted to thank Ms. Foster for bringing that forward and spearheading that effort. Is there a motion to approve this proclamation to start with? Ms. Foster, can you make that motion?
I make the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Hunter, second. If we could get that read into the record, please.
Proclamation of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, honoring Black History Month. Whereas that the origin of Black History Month began in 1915, half century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas Carter G. Woodson established the first week in the month of February to recognize the accomplishments of African Americans, February is also the birth month of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Whereas the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People was established on February 12, 1909. Whereas President Gerald Ford in 1976 extended the week to a month for recognizing African American accomplishments and unsung patriots' legacy. And whereas the contributions of African Americans from all walks of life and their endeavors to learn and thrive throughout history and make unforgettable marks in our nation as artists, scientists, educators, business people, influential thinkers, members of the faith community, athletes, and political and governmental leaders reflect the greatness of the United States. And whereas the Kankakee County Board observes and honors Black History Month and acknowledges the courageous fight for the rights, liberties, and freedoms for all Americans. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Kankakee County Board continues to observe and honor the month of February as Black History Month and recognizes the tremendous contributions made by African Americans.
Thanks, Dan. So we have a motion and a second. Would like any comment first? Mr. Hunter?
Mr. Chairman, I'd interface with board member Rosemary Foster on this particular matter. And as we well know, at my church, Caldwell Chapel AME Zion Church is the oldest African-American church in the county. Has been in existence for 121 years in this particular county. A lot of different people, African Americans, have served and were parishioners of that particular church, one of which is my uncle, Ben Elton Cox, who has several Supreme Court rulings which he prevailed in. A lot of other prominent African Americans in Kankakee County have done positive things in this particular arena. And I just want to thank Board Member Rosemary Foster for taking the initiative, along with Dr. Porter, for bringing forth this proclamation.
Any other comment? I guess all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have no certificates of appreciation today. The minutes from January 10th, 2023, is there a motion there? Mr. Smith, a second? Second, Ms. Turner. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. If we can get Claims Committee reports, please.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your Committee on County Claims would beg leave to report they have examined the following claims presented and recommend payment. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to issue orders to the several claimants. Total for December 2022, $11,343,842.27.
All righty. Is there a motion on the claims? Ms. Parker, second. Mr. Fairfield. Without comment, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Ms. Andrade.
Aye.
Ms. Armour Earps.
Aye.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Aye.
Ms. Monday.
Aye.
Ms. Ripmanick-Emmy.
Aye.
Ms. Turner.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Under department reports, please.
County Collector's Monthly Report for December 2022. Total cash and bank and investments of $1,510,001.51. Treasurer's Monthly Report for December 2022. Tax operating account at First American Bank, ending balance of $1,449,753.27. In the tax collection account at First American Bank, $337.85. And the tax e-pay account at First American Bank, ending balance of $59,910.39. Coroner's Monthly Report for December 2022. Total calls 139, coroner's cases 25, autopsies 8, toxicology 8. 1 donation, 1 fetal, 63 hospice, 48 referrals, 90 cremations, 1 x-ray, 1 COVID-19, 8 pending. Coroner's Income Summary Report for December 2022, total of $4,560. Circuit Clerk Cash Book for month ending December 2022, total dispersed of $233,336.43. County Recorder's Monthly Report for December 2022, disbursement fees paid to the County Treasurer of $122,714.22. County Clerk's Monthly Report for December 2022, total of $47,891.90. Monthly Building Division Report for December 2022, total permits 48, total fees of $30,199. Animal Control Monthly Report for month ending December 2022, total fees of $58,099, total animals handled 65. Monthly Resolution List, total of the county of $357. And the Iroquois Kankakee Regional Superintendent of Schools Quarterly Report is on file.
Thank you. Is there a motion to combine and approve? Mr. Eckhoff, second. Mr. Ashcraft. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there anything on the consent agenda that needs to come off and be considered separately? Mr. Snipes?
26 and 27.
26, 27. All right, any others? All right. Final time? All right, is there a motion to combine and approve the consent agenda? Mr. Ashcraft, second. Ms. Ripmanick-Emmy, sorry, I'm looking over here. If we can get those read, please. Thank you.
The reappointment of Elwood Line to the Moments Yellowhead Drainage District. The reappointment of Scott O'Brien to the Emergency Telephone System Board. The appointment of Jessica Andrade to the ICANN Joint Education Committee. The agreement to approve decommissioning plan and bond in the amount of $196,682 for the Mantino Solar One LLC Solar Farm Project. ZBA case 2219, special use permit, section 121-99.c.34, solar farm in the A1 Agriculture District, section 8, Limestone Township, Jeffrey Road Solar One LLC. ZBA case 22-30, special use permit, section 121-99.c.34, solar farm in the A1 Agriculture District, section 24, Bourbonnais Township, 2000 North Solar One LLC. Authorizing expenditure from fiscal year 2022 Fund 95 America Rescue Plan Fund for Grant Park Fire Protection District, Moments Park District, Kankakee River Conservancy District, and Fund 98 America Rescue Plan Lost Revenue Fund to the Kankakee County Recorder for digital files and Kankakee County Courthouse X-ray machine.
Alrighty. We had a motion and a second already on that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Andrade.
Aye.
Ms. Armour Earps.
Aye.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Aye.
Ms. Monday.
Aye.
Ms. Ripmanick-Emmy.
Aye.
Ms. Turner.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to combine and approve 26 and 27? Mr. Eckhoff, Mr. Swanson? Yes, Mr. Snipes, your question or comments?
I have two questions. How many African Americans are serving on this particular board?
We have 3 appointments.
That was my question. I said, how many African Americans are
I have
serving on the
no
board?
idea.
Well, maybe I have. Do you have the names of those individuals?
I have the names that we're appointing.
No, I need the names that's on the board. If you
Well,
are the
you could
chairman,
call
you certainly
them
should have
and
the
ask
names.
them.
No. Are there any African Americans
Sir, you
on
don't
the board?
tell me what to do.
Are there any African Americans on the board?
I have no idea
So you're the chairman
of this board.
and so therefore, when we appoint to that board, how many have we appointed currently that are African Americans?
You see the 3 appointments in front of you.
I saw the
So what's your
one. The
question?
one is of Latin descent, and so now I need to have an African American appointed to that particular board. I don't understand why that this has been a problem for down through the years. Education, I want across the board. If you're going to have a joint committee, someone of African descent or African American descent, because they attend the educational system as well, should serve on this committee. So as a result, you took off. I want to find out. George has served. I've served. Sherry McBride has served, but I have not seen anyone that has been appointed to this particular committee, and I have not seen anyone of African American descent. And for you to basically tell me that you don't know, basically substantiates the fact that you either don't have the insight because you've been appointed from this board, or you just choose not to answer. So before I would vote on any other appointment to this particular board. Now I did, Jessica, because that's a Latin, we need Latin descent, that's representation. We have plenty of whites on the board. I believe that it needs to be fundamentally fair across the board. So as a result, if I looked at that board to pass the EEOC test, it would not. And so as a result, I'm saying that I would not vote for it until such time as we get someone, and I'm sure there's many qualified individuals of African American descent that serves on this particular board that can be appointed to that particular board. So my vote would be no until that is done.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Mr. Chairman.
Number 9. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did anybody else apply for these 2 positions or 3?
No, just the 3.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Monday?
And we have no right at all to tell ICANN who they should put on their board and who they shouldn't, correct?
Correct. No. We only have the authority for this body. Any other questions, Ms. Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to recognize that I have over 30 years experience in higher education and high school education. I have taught every demographic possible. And when I go into those meetings, it's with an open mind. So I'm very qualified, Mr. Snipes.
Mr. Hunter?
With all due respect, Mr. Snipes, I think I've been on this board for almost, 3 years. The chairman has been available and open to recommendations that have transpired with respect to African Americans. I know I have recommended various individuals prior to the appointments, and he has been amenable to taking those particular names into consideration, and this board has acted accordingly. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Snipes. However, in terms of being proactive, there might be some effort on your part to identify individuals who you would want to consider for various appointments to the vacancies that exist. As opposed to bringing up the issue presently when the cow is out of the barn already and we're voting on these particular appointments. So in the future, from a guy who's been involved in public service for half a century, you have to be proactive in terms of what you want. If there are candidates in readiness that you want to consider for appointment to vacancies, I would just a suggestion that you may want to provide that information to the chairman for consideration for this board for the appointments.
Ms. Foster.
I just wanted to add what my fellow board member said in front of me. I do believe that you did ask for people, requested, and if we knew anybody, to have them apply. So we all had an opportunity to share names.
Any other comments? Okay. Second time, Mr. Snipes?
Yes, we had representation up on there. It was taken off. It doesn't make a difference if you apply or not. We've done that before, and it was not done. Mr. Will himself, when I served on here, basically took me off and put someone else there. There was no African American representation. I understand your tenure in politics. I also understand that you know the process of where you think we should go, but remind yourself that is selective and and subjective in that particular process, because this board has not always acted in accordance, and I can sit there and prove that without question. But nevertheless, and we don't even follow sometimes the actual bylaws that we set for our particular selves, and if you want me to prove that and send you the information, I can. I am going to restate that I am not voting. I'm not talking about your qualifications and everything else that, or the people that you're selecting. I am simply saying that an African American should be appointed to this particular board. And for anyone to think that we're challenging your credentials, that's not what I'm here for. I am just saying, and I am strongly suggesting, because African Americans need to be represented on certain boards, that in the area of education, which is very important, that we need to have African American representation on the board. And I do know that we don't have control of the ICANN board, but we appoint to the ICANN board. And most of the time, there's county board members that sit on that particular board. I served on it, so I know very well from here as far as the process is concerned. But I still stand by, we need to have African Americans represented up on that particular board.
All right, anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say
Roll
aye.
call.
Roll call vote, please. Serenity now.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Nay.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Kirko.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Nay.
Mr. Hunter. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Ms. Foster. Ms. Andrade. Ms. Armour Earps. Mr. Ashcraft. Ms. Monday. Ms. Rittman-Akemi. Ms. Turner. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Under finance, if we can, I guess, just get the title into the record, please.
Authorizing the financing of county patrol vehicles by the Sheriff's Department.
Mr. Coughlin's in the back of the room here. He was part of the conversation. If you do need any confirmations of the process we went through, Sheriff found vehicles. I think we know that there aren't these vehicles out there. He found them in Ohio, and we had to act because they, you know, as they say, somebody else was going to buy them. Someone was going to pull in there, so we basically had to act on it before the full board meeting. So we had to get the opinion from the state's attorney's office that indeed, just like before, it was an emergency based on supply chain. So I guess we first need a motion to approve Mr. Hess and a second with Mr. Fairfield. So any questions about that process, Mr. Hunter?
Mr. Chairman, just I want to know where in the hell he got the interest rate from, because I think that was 3% or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't 4, it was under 4.
No, it was amazing. But when we think in terms of trying to outfit our public safety individuals, I don't know if you guys were watching the news last night about what happened in Michigan State University. 3 students were killed by a gunman, and 5 were injured. The public safety community acted appropriately fast in terms of apprehending the shooter. In fact, he shot himself in the head, but I just want to say, from looking at the news accounts last night and this morning, you know, I take my hat off to the public safety community, you know, for the prompt action which they took in identifying and actually stopping the gunman. And then he did the self-inflicted shot in the head and killed himself. But the point I'm trying to make is that we have to outfit our public safety personnel and provide them with all requisite equipment and support that we can from this particular body.
And so the rest of the board knows there is a point of diminished returns where, you know, you get up to a certain mileage and you don't get out of the trade-in, the auction, if you will, if you would have just stopped about 5,000 miles before that. So what we're doing, if you stay on that rotation, the cars are a lot cheaper and you get more for them because you're not having to basically limp along for the next 50,000 miles. So once we get on this program, it's in our best interest financially to stay on the program if we can. There are a couple guys in the room actually know what I'm talking about, and it tends to pile up on you when you don't get vehicles for 6-7 years, because then you've got to get all of them brand new, and it's pretty expensive. Mr. Snipes.
Even though I am a proponent of making sure that we buy from Illinois, I do know that the sheriff would do due diligence. It would be within, if it was anyway within his purview, he would, I'm sure he sought out any and all opportunities in Illinois before we go to any other state. So I am of the belief that this is probably not only the best offer, but he had to do his due diligence to look at other states, and this is where this one-on-time opportunity that veers from. I do know in the past we have purchased from the state's program, so without there being sufficient vehicles that were available there, he sought outside outside the state, but for good reasons. He had to get the costs. He had to meet deadlines. So I am not in oppose or opposition to this. I believe it is plausible at this particular point.
Just so the committee knows, state bid price was matched. So whatever the bid price for these vehicles in Illinois was met by the dealership in Ohio, and we bid from 3 sources the financing. So full requirements were met. Any other questions? Roll call vote then.
Mr. Hess. Mrs. Polk. Mr. Snipes. Mr. Seroy. Mrs. Weber. Mrs. Parker. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Kirko. Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Swanson. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller. Mr. Long. Mr. Kirkstra. Mr. Hunter. Mr. Smith. Mr. Hildebrand. Ms. Foster. Ms. Andrade. Ms. Armour Earps. Mr. Ashcraft. Ms. Monday. Ms. Rittman-Ekemi. Ms. Turner. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. The next one, if we could get that read into the record, please.
Authorizing expenditure from fiscal year 22, Fund 95, America Rescue Plan Fund, to M&J Catering.
Is there a motion, Mr. Eckhoff?
Motion for reimbursement only.
Motion to approve,
Approve for reimbursement only.
and there's a second.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion on that?
A question, with all due respect,
Eckhoff and then Alexander Hildebrand. Yes, sir.
you know, this is a minority, I don't know why you put the stipulation on there. I mean, this is minority business. You may recall initially there was a request for an exorbitant amount of money, and we tabled that particular matter and brought it back. This is the same organization that provided the catering for the gas line service ribbon cutting event, which happened a couple weeks ago. Viable service, minority business, and what happens is that minority businesses don't have the capital assets oftentimes to purchase the equipment that's in dire need. It's my understanding from talking to the owner of this particular catering entity that she's had to rent the equipment, and that puts an undue hardship on the viability of that particular business entity. Also, I checked with Mayor Mark Hodge, the mayor of Hopkins Park, and also former county board member who is now the township supervisor for Pembroke Township, Sam Payton, and they overwhelmingly concur with the allocation of 10 grand for this particular business entity. I'm not sure, and I would almost stake my reputation that this particular minority entrepreneur does not have the wherewithal to purchase the equipment for reimbursement. So that's why I'm against the motion that you made, and I would consider that you would withdraw that and we allocate the 10 grand. Also talked to Rosemary Foster, who represents that particular area, and she concurs also, and I don't presume to speak for her, that she is in support of the allocation of 10K to the entity which we're voting upon presently. So would you consider rescinding that?
Am I still on, Mr. Chairman? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason why I went ahead and did a reimbursement only is because out of the fund number 095, the majority of our activity that comes out of that fund is reimbursement only. At finance, there was a question on the reimbursement only, and it was failed to go ahead and be brought up as reimbursement only. So that's the reason why I brought the reimbursement only, because the majority of them out of that fund number is the reimbursement only for that section. So that's why I brought the reimbursement only, and I'd like to go ahead and keep it at this time.
Okay. So you're in its current format is what you're voting on.
Correct.
So I guess the stipulation would be if you support that, you would vote for it. If you do not want reimbursement and would like to vote to support it, without the reimbursement
Just
aspect,
to
you would
give
vote against it.
10,000.
You'd have to vote it down this time, and then someone would
Yes.
bring it back with a different motion.
And out of respect, Mr. Hunter, it's just because the process with 095 that it should go ahead and be a reimbursement because that's what the majority of those funds were out of that account.
Well, and to retort to your comments, with all due respect, I would hope that there'd be some kind of reasonable accommodation with respect to this particular entity. As we well know, you take a look at the Pembroke Township, what we're trying to do is enhance and support entrepreneurship. Now, this would, again, would put an undue hardship on the requester of the funds. And I'm saying to you, I'm not sure of any particular entrepreneur who's located in Pembroke Township other than maybe somebody who provides propane would have $10,000 in order to purchase the equipment. And I just want you to understand that. I'm going to be voting no. Then we'll hopefully bring it back and allocate the 10K directly as opposed to reimbursement. And I would encourage the balance of the members to vote accordingly.
Ms. Foster first, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment as well. This is a female owner, a minority, and in the spirit of Black history, we need this, and I encourage all my members to vote no. We have been behind economically, and this is a chance for us to grow. So I'm hoping that everybody will vote no.
Mr. Snipes?
I don't know if Mr. Hunter was entertaining a motion to amend.
I didn't say that.
That's what I said. So if you don't have a motion to amend, basically you ask us to vote this down, and your only, if my understanding is correct, your only caveat was that you wanted to increase to the 10,000 versus where it is now, which that sounded to me like it would have been a motion to amend. But since that's not basically what you want, I then digress because it confuses me when we would rather support in the spirit of Black history food but not education. But that's my thoughts.
Other comments?
Can somebody explain to me what we're going to do with this situation? Leave it as it is, give the people reimburse or give them the $10,000.
Ms. Polk, the motion is on the floor to approve the allocation, but under reimbursement. They would buy something and then get reimbursed, and then buy something else and get reimbursed, and then buy something else and get reimbursed, up to that amount.
Oh, but it sounds like they may not have
That's
the
what I'm
money to
saying,
do that.
Dr. Poe.
I think that was Mr. Hunter's argument, was that the
Okay.
capital is not available on the front end, and
Right.
why I comment there.
Okay.
Ms. Monday, here, let me get this going here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the situation before us, and I understand it's Black History Month, and certainly a female entrepreneur, and certainly in that part of the county, I get it. But I'm just wondering, you know, we have in the past apparently made stipulations and asked for people to come to us, you know, happily to reimburse them for expenses that they have incurred during COVID. I'm just wondering how many other hundreds would come to us now and say, I need $10,000. You know, and it's nothing against this particular company, again, or Black History Month, or, you know, the fact, like I said, they're in your district, Rosemary. But I think, I don't want to say it can't open a can of worms, but, you know, I mean, if we've asked other people to show receipts and get reimbursed, I believe that's what we need to stick to. Thank you.
Second time, Mr. Hunter.
Peggy Sue, with all due respect,
Sorry.
I might imagine, and now somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, that this board has allocated funds to the recipients without the caveat of reimbursement. All I'm saying to you is that this is a viable entity. As Dr. Pope has indicated, and I indicated as well too, they don't have the resources, the capital assets that by and large other individuals have. And it's not like this is some kind of frivolous business opportunity. It's been an ongoing business for some period of time. And again, I would encourage you guys to vote no. Then we'll bring this matter up for another vote for allocation of $10K without the stipulations.
All right, Mr. Seroy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question on the payout of the reimbursements. As soon as the person turns in the receipt, how soon does a check get cut for that reimbursement? Is it over 30 days or is it within a 30-day window? Because if you're in business, you usually have like 30 days to pay your receipt.
Right.
And I also have 2 entities in my district that are waiting for reimbursement because of the fire department whose building burnt down. They're waiting for a truck that you can't get till next year maybe. So they're still they're almost a year and a half out on the ARPA fund reimbursement, but we've got to wait till the truck actually comes in before they get reimbursed their portion of the ARPA. So that's my question really, is how soon does ARPA funds get cut after that receipt gets turned in?
We usually do a check run a month. So if that receipt were to show up the day after the check run, it would be 30 days. Probably.
30 days?
Yeah. You know, if it, you know, I can see cases where, and maybe that might be what we say here, reimbursement, or we cut a direct check to the equipment company. So there is no reimbursement. The reason I think, and I won't speak for Mr. Eckhoff, is we have to justify through an audit trail that the funds were spent on the things that they were supposed to be spent on. That's why we normally request reimbursement, so we can have that audit trail for the feds. So that's just not a nice to have. In most cases, it's a have to have for that audit trail. And Mr. McCarty isn't in here, but I know he would echo that. So while I'm not commenting on whether you should vote for or against anything, I'm just letting you know that audit trail is important.
And that's all I was wanting to know, is the process, because if you have to buy something, you usually don't have to pay for it immediately, whether it's a big purchase. If you're using a credit card or anything like that, you can usually wait till that billing cycle is through. So
Right.
Thank you.
So Mr. Feather, sorry, let me get you on here.
That went through finance with the stipulation on it too, didn't it?
No.
Okay.
So any other comments on Mr. Swanson?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This came through the ARPA request as a startup, right? It wasn't a lost revenue. It wasn't.
It came in as a startup. Yeah, there was no tax returns
So
or anything.
The
like
funding
that.
we're going to give them is basically starting their business.
That's
Is that
the way
correct?
it was
If that's,
presented.
if I recall from finance.
That's the way it was presented in finance. It was startup,
Okay.
Mr. Long. Because we asked for a business plan because we didn't. It was a startup, so we asked for a business plan. Yes.
Thanks for stealing my thunder. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So,
No,
Mr. Long.
on the original request, we had asked for a business plan for approval.
Right.
And I haven't seen that.
Ms. Earps, please.
No, I didn't realize it was a startup plan, but as a business owner of multiple restaurants and everything that we are involved in, we don't expect government to back us. If we decided to cater something and something breaks, we are responsible for that. We don't go back and ask for more money because of the fact that we couldn't get it done.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Hess, first time, and then Ms. Monday, second time.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't at the last finance meeting, so I wasn't in on the discussion, but would the person that made the motion amend it and say that we would pay them if they brought a receipt in then? Could that be done? Is that legal, Mr. Rowe?
No.
No?
You're asking if we can operate on a reimbursement basis?
No. if what the motion was, because pay on reimbursement, if they bring in a bill, can we pay it through the ARPA funds?
We could cut it.
Direct the vendor,
Yeah, that's why I kind of threw that out there. If that is acceptable, then if it is a, you know, $4,000 piece of, you know, grill or whatever, we can pay it directly to the vendor, you know.
Oh, that's good.
That's, I know I'm not recognized, but that's viable. That's viable.
Yeah.
Do we have an invoice?
We would have to have the invoice. Well, we'd be paying it. They would invoice us.
So we could hold that off for another time, reimburse now and wait for an invoice that.
We would hold the money until that equipment is delivered, and then we would pay that invoice. That's kind of, it's very similar to what we did at the pumping stations, if you will. The bills are coming here, they have to approve the bills, and then we pay the bill for, yeah. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
In your
That's
second?
acceptable to me.
Was that acceptable?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so that's you're changing your motion.
It's a workaround. It's a workaround for that accomplishes both. I hope.
That's fine. I can live with that.
Reimbursement.
Okay.
Thank you, the maker of the motion.
Miss Monday, please.
I think we still need a business plan, though, correct? There was no business plan turned in for this yet? And isn't that a requirement?
There was something submitted to finance.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So, I know, hopefully this is not as clear as mud, and I know I'm not recognized.
Hold on just 1 second, please. Let me turn the mic on. All right, what do you got?
Okay. The maker of the motion has intimated that what you had recommended in terms of stuff comes in, we'll pay for it directly.
You can pay it directly.
I'm saying to you, fellow board members, I can concur with this particular change.
Okay. All right.
In other words, vote aye.
Restate the motion.
And then the motion and the second, we're good with that.
Can we restate it?
The motion is to approve, and if there are direct payments to be made for larger ticket items, we can make those directly. So it can be either reimbursement or we pay it directly. I don't know how we would go to GFS and pay that directly for the food for catering. You understand what I'm saying?
Equipment, this is for equipment.
Yeah, so I'm just mentioning, you know, the larger ticket stuff where they wouldn't have that ability. And that's really undefined. I'm not putting a dollar amount on it because I think that we don't want to come here if it's $1 more and then re-vote on it again.
They just get a max.
Yeah, they get a max. Yes. Ms.
Is this equipment that they're going to keep or equipment they're renting? Or, I mean, are we funding this company? Is that what my understanding is?
The ARPA allows us to fund companies that either opened during the pandemic, started to open and were shut down, or are new startups. So, and that's part of what the law allows us to do. Okay, roll call vote?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Pope.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Swanson.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Andrade.
Aye.
Ms. Armour Erps.
Aye.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Aye.
Ms. Monday.
Aye.
Ms. Rittman-Akemi.
Aye.
Ms. Turner.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. And by the way, thank you for the respectful debate. It's very welcome.
Yep, amen. Let church say amen on that, yeah.
We have a couple openings. Dan?
One opening on the McGilvery Special Drainage District, one opening on the Pilot Township Fire Protection District.
All righty, we have a couple things. We are not going to talk about the executive session minutes, so it's just 5 ILCS 122C21, or excuse me, 2C11, pending litigation. I have some information. So is there a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Fairfield and Mr. Featherling. Featherfield, all those in favor? Wait, it's roll call going in. It's roll call going in. Sorry about that.
Mr. Hess.
Something here for everybody.
Mrs. Pope.
Aye.
Mr.
Snipes. Mr. Seroy. Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Carrico. Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Swanson. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long. Mr. Kirkstra. Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith. Mr. Hildebrand. Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Andrade.
Aye.
Ms. Armour Erps.
Aye.
Mr. Ashcraft. Ms. Monday.
Aye.
Ms. Ripmanick-Emmy.
Aye.
Ms. Turner.
Aye.
Ms. Wheeler.
Aye. All right, we'll get this changed over. Promise it won't be too long. Okay, we are back from executive session. Is there any old business? Any other, Mr. Snipes?
Yeah, one. We were made aware of the Attorney General's opinion of June 15th, 2021. And my question is, why wasn't that shared with the board? And then the second question is, after reading that decision, would there have been any change?
Yeah, that decision,
opinion, excuse me.
That opinion, I'm sorry, would not have resulted in any change. In fact, it was a moot issue. And I believe one of the last lines in that opinion, I don't have it before me, but it's that they were unable to offer an opinion. They were unable to reach a conclusion. And by the time we got that opinion, I think you said that was from June of 2021?
21.
Yep. So by that time, you have to remember the issue that we submitted to them was a 30-day residency issue.
Correct.
And after the first vote, where Mr. Wheeler was appointed to the board, the 30-day issue was raised, right? And that's what was submitted to the Attorney General.
Correct.
But then a situation arose where we believe there was not proper notice to a third party, the Libertarian Party, I think it was, that had full party status at the time. So what that required is a subsequent meeting, and then not really a withdrawal, but that seat was declared vacant again, and there was a reappointment. And by the time that had come around, everyone was far beyond the 30-day residency requirement. So the residency requirement was not an issue. And by the time that came in June 15th of 2021, you had not only the residency issue, but I think you'd had a full election cycle by then, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember when your second appointment date was.
Oh, it was 22.
No, that was the election.
That district was not up for election that year.
Correct. When you were appointed was when?
It was in 2020, right?
I believe it was like the end of 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Right.
So the 30-day issue was no longer an issue. Well, because the second appointment cured that.
Well, the 30-day issue came up in November of 2020 when we asked for the opinion, because at the time of the appointment, there was no 30-day residency that was there. And the residencies when that was when it was brought up by the board, was saying that they only have to live in the county for 30 days. However, after for a year. However, after the opine of the Attorney General's office, they asked questions, 2 questions in that opinion. One was, did the person in fact live there? Since that was not the case, then when we appointed, the person was not qualified because they had not resided in the district at least 30 days. And that had to fall up under according to the opine opinion and even the Second District Appellate Court, that has to follow under the election code, and they follow the Supreme Court ruling as far as that's concerned. So that's why I asked the question, and perhaps at the next meeting you can give me a more clarified decision. But just to save you a little paperwork, I just wanted to put that decision before you.
So are you saying that the second appointment occurred before Mr. Wheeler lived in his district for 30 days?
Yes.
You're saying the second appointment, the one in December?
The first appointment was where we had to appoint him to the county board. That appointment was whoever was appointed at that time had to be a qualified elector of that district residing in that district.
Appointment.
The first appointment.
So if the first appointment was invalid?
If the first appointment was, the first appointment would have made the county board placed an individual in a position that the person was not qualified for.
Sure. Do you remember we had one like that where someone was appointed and then it turned out they didn't live in the district? I can't remember that gentleman. Mr. Duda. Do you remember? You recall that there was someone that was appointed, and then when it was learned, that seat was vacant, right? So when it was learned that notice hadn't gone to that third party, which had full party status, that seat was vacant at that point. That appointment of Mr. Wheeler the first time was void. So there was a second appointment to the county board. Remind yourself, he was still in office. We didn't appoint him at that time. We put him in on the 18th because the person had not been, and I remember the person that you said right in front of me as far as that's concerned. And you all said that you resubmitted that information out because we had not declared the vacancy. That was the first time. So that seat was vacant. That's why there was a second appointment to the county board. If it was no vacancy, there would be no appointment. You couldn't appoint someone to a full seat.
But we appointed because he was appointed as a county board in November 18. His last day serving on the Kankakee County Board, and that's on record, was November 6th. He registered on November 6th. So therefore, the 30-day requirement it would not have been done until after December. The thing at that point, they had already appointed him chairman. So in the beginning, it was still.
You got it all wrong, Robert. Andy Wheeler was appointed to the district previously held by Mike Zenz in November.
What day?
In November.
He left November because he was a county chairman on November 6th. He registered at Dan's office on November 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then he was appointed. He had a
and then he was appointed on November 9th. We argued, so therefore they appointed him on November 18th. The 30-day requirement would have been from November 6th to December 6th. So therefore he could not have been.
But there was a second appointment.
But the second appointment
well
came
beyond the 30-day residency
requirement. But the second appointment came when we had the conversation about the declaration again, and so therefore at that particular.
What declaration?
We had a declaration whether the county board was supposed to declare the vacancy. Remember that argument? And then y'all brought him in. We appointed him.
That was the first one,
right?
And that's when we realized we didn't have notice to the third party. So then we had to have a whole second appointment. And the second appointment was well beyond the 30-day residency.
So when did we appoint him the second? Because he became chairman on December 6th. I mean, he became the chairman in December.
I'll get the dates for you.
All I know, the date I remember is the election date from this past election where I was elected. So why are we still talking about this?
Because there's also an issue of false swearing in an election, because if you were not there in 30 days, that false swearing would have been when you said that I am a registered voter of this particular district and reside in that district for at least 30 days, that would have been a false swearing. So what we're saying is—
In what election cycle?
That was in the first, because remind you, this was an appointed position. It was not an elected position. It was elected.
Chairman Wheeler, right, was appointed to the Mike Zenz's county board district how many times?
In November.
How many times was he appointed to the county board district, Mike Zenz's county board district?
One that I know of.
Twice. One that you know of, and then apparently another one you don't know of. He was appointed to that county board district 2 times. The first time he was appointed turned out to be void because notice was not given to the third party. So we had to come back a second time and do it all again. And when we did it the second time, the 30-day issue was no longer on the table. No one could say at that point that he hadn't lived in that district for 30 days at the time of the second appointment.
I think we need to get the timeline because I think
you need to get the timeline.
No, I have
and you
the
can
timeline.
verify it if that's your argument.
No.
And what the AG's opinion says is that they can't reach an opinion, right?
No, they didn't say
No,
that.
they do say that at the end of it. I've read it too, Robert.
They asked you 2 questions.
That's right. And at that point, it was moot. It was 6 months after he had been appointed to a seat for a district he had lived in more than 30 days.
I guess
and since that time, he's been reelected to that district.
We would differ because he was the county board chairman in December. We appointed him as they appointed him
when
as
that
the
was voided. Who sat up there? Mr. Seroy sat up here. Do you remember that, Mr. Seroy? I think you were county chairman twice, in fact. In fact, his picture's back there because he was county chairman for a period of time.
Once he left, and you all put him back on the board. Because he stayed as a board, and so Ciros was the chairman until we elected the board the first Tuesday in December, the first Monday, in December. So the appointment of the board, he was not qualified to be appointed to that board at that time.
The second time?
The first time.
What about the second time?
The second time
he was appointed to the board, and then he was elected chairman the second time.
You're saying that there was a second time. You have to tell me when that second time was.
I don't. You can look at the minutes.
We didn't see another vacancy of the seat. We didn't see another declaration. They just moved him out and moved him in the same day. Now, unless I'm missing something.
That's just simply, again, it's just simply not accurate, Mr. Snipes.
Then
there was a second appointment.
Give me the timeline,
There was a second
we'll stand
appointment
corrected.
where he was sworn into the county board and then elected chairman
Give me that
the second
date.
time. And in the interim period, Mr. Seroy was the chairman. You think his picture's on the wall just for us to look at it? He was
No, because when he vacated the seat on November 6th, they appointed a chairman.
God.
That was Mr. Ciros' time. But he came off on the first Monday. So when we appointed him, he was not qualified because he had not met the 30-day requirement. And then there's a false swearing, which you yourself know, any violation of the election code is a class 3 or 4 felony. We asked for the investigation. That was never done. So all that's been a public record.
The investigation was done, and you asked me to investigate whether in fact Mr. Wheeler lived in that district. We spent a ton of resources in this county. They had to take patrol officers, deputies off the street to go conduct interviews because of your false allegations, yourself and others that signed that letter, Mr. Kirkstra. You guys submitted a letter saying he didn't live in that district. So there was an investigation conducted by law enforcement officers, by prosecutors, the civil attorneys in the back. We all had to spend considerable amount of time and resources. And what you were all asking for in that letter was the right to sue. I granted you the right to sue because I provided you with the investigation, and there was absolutely no merit to your allegations. You know who else found that? The Attorney General of the state of Illinois, Kwame Raoul. So when you want to think that this is partisan, that's your Democrat Attorney General telling you the same thing I told you. And you both got the right to sue. Where's the lawsuit? You didn't file it. You know why? Because even you both know that there was no merit to your allegations. You did that on a Sunday before an election day so you could drop a bomb. A political bomb, and you wasted a lot of county resources. You took officers off the street to chase down your false allegations. And now here you come again, want to resurrect something from years ago.
No.
That has absolutely nothing to do with the business before the county board today.
It has
you have your
everything to do
facts
with the
wrong,
business,
sir, and the Attorney General saw it that way too.
No, the Attorney General did not see it that way because they basically stated that you all failed to answer 2 questions. Was the
absolutely false.
Was the residency
Motion to adjourn.
No, he has to be allowed to finish
I have to be allowed to speak.
Let him finish his comment.
It's been over
I took a lot of his time. Let him finish,
Right.
and then we.
So you did on November 22nd. That's when you all talk about you expended the resources. Those resources should have been expended on November 2020 when I asked for it. The letter was submitted. We asked for it 4 times. It's all the part of the on the emails. It was not done there. You conveniently basically did all this investigation. 3 people had that you arguing had concerns, and they submitted a letter. Nowhere in there did
It wasn't
they
a
ask.
letter. It was a request for a right to sue. It required us to go out.
Did
and
it say right
conduct
to
an
sue in that, Jimmy?
investigation
I did not
for
see that up in
meritless-
there.
That is exactly what you requested in that
No,
letter.
I didn't request
the
anything.
right to sue.
They
Robert, your
asked-
name is on there.
My name is on there because
You
3
responded
people
to
that
the
live
email.
in that.
You forwarded to the Attorney General. How are you saying you?
No, I didn't forward to
you,
I
Mr.
CC'd
Kirkstra,
them.
and other individuals were on that letter.
Let's not distort the argument. The argument is on November, when we appointed Mr. Willer, he did not live there 30 days. He had not lived there, and he was not qualified to be appointed to this board. We later put him on as chairman, and you all, through some act, said we'll wait till after the 30 days and reappoint him. But we never declared another vacancy. Y'all just on the same day, and that's on podcast or whatever this. Well, I guess the county website where they can go back and review it. The same day, no declares of a vacancy. They just simply took him out, put him back in. The false swearing is still on November 6th when he left and registered the same day and said he resided in the district. If he was not on the board, we could not have appointed him chairman, and he would not have been able to be taken out and put back in. I'll stand by that argument, and the Attorney General did not find. Matter of fact, they found that the 30-day requisite requirement was mandatory. So if you want me to, you have the Attorney General's opinion. Did you ask the 2 questions? Because they said, we are unclear as to when he became a resident.
So I'm looking at the November 18th board meeting minutes.
No, I want the Attorney General's opinion. The 2 questions that they asked.
Yeah, I'm talking about the November 18th Kankakee County Board meeting minutes, which is where the appointment was made, correct?
No, November 9th, I believe it was not November 9th, and we had some questions because of that, and the person said they had not been, and you stated at that time that we had to get within that 60 days, and so they had up to the 18th. Then they called a special meeting that was not in accordance with law because it did not fill the requirements of the law, so that special meeting was even out of order. So according to them, that would be null and void. However, in November, when was the second appointment?
And I agree with you that the first appointment, are you saying it would be 19 or 20? It would be 20. The first appointment was void. I absolutely agree with you because that letter wasn't sent to the third party. The second appointment.
No, it's because of the 30-day requirement.
That wasn't why the first one was found void. The first one was found void because the gentleman that sat in front of you, like you said, Mr. Byrne, had raised the issue as he was chairman, I believe, of the Libertarian Party at that time. They had full party status because they got more than 5% prior election, and they weren't given proper notice. I think the certified mail, I think it had to be certified mail if I'm not mistaken, maybe regular mail. But we conceded that it would only been sent to the 2 major parties, and we weren't aware, or it slipped our mind that the Libertarian Party had full party status at the time. So that appointment was void. So the second appointment,
which was
that was made. That's what I'm looking for on here. I thought it was in December, if I'm not mistaken.
He was appointed county board chairman in December. It was November 18th. You were thinking of the November 9th meeting.
Let's see. So there were 2 meetings, right, where there was an appointment made. I think we actually had to have a special meeting in there.
Right. It was the November 18th meeting. And if he left on the 6th, you're saying that he met the 30-day requirement?
Yes. On the second, at the time of the second appointment, 30 days had more than passed.
I don't see that. When was the second appointment?
That's what I'm looking for. I'd have to go through the minutes.
I don't think you'll find it because he became chairman on the first Monday in December, and he was already appointed to the board on November 18th.
So on November 18th, right, he was appointed.
And he had not resided in that district 30 days.
To fill the unexpired term. At the same time, I believe, Everett Eads, I think, was appointed at that same time. I think that was the same issue there.
Because Andy had vacated his seat on November 6th. So in the timeline, it was not 30 days.
Chairman Wheeler had lived in his district at the time of the second appointment for 30 days.
When was the second
I'm going to
appointment?
get you that timeline. I'm going to get you that timeline.
And I'm not gonna give you my lease. It was part of the investigation. This is so.
We already have your lease.
weak
We're not
sauce,
even,
weak
the lease
sauce.
that, I mean, we understand, we heard your argument that you moved out to take care of mom. I would have just moved mom into my house, but people
You're
do what
out of
they do.
order, sir. You
No,
do not.
you
You
the
do
one
not
made the
discuss
statement.
my family.
Yeah, you made
Keep
the
my
statement.
family out of your mouth.
I'm only arguing what you got in the papers.
You do what you got to do, sir. I've been elected to my district.
This
I live
time,
there.
but you fraudulently basically forsweared when it came to allegedly that you lived in that district 30 days, and that even
You
the
better
Attorney
be
General
very
office
careful
said you
of
had to.
slander and libel.
Well,
You better be
slander
very
the opinion, because I will stand by the fact
You
that you
just
did not
said
live
fraud,
in
sir.
the district 30
You better be
days
very
before
careful.
we appointed you on November 18th.
I was.
No, okay, then if you was, prove it.
I don't need to prove it. You need to. I don't need to
said
prove
for
my
the record
defense.
on the county board that your last day on the county board was November
there a
6th,
point of order?
2020. You registered to vote.
Point of order. 5 minutes. Second time over with. I'm ruling on that. You
we
had
still on our
your
first time.
day to blow up the room. Are you going to continue with this?
No, I am the one that said that your 30 days.
The Attorney
in
General has
November
already
6th,
found that it's based.
No,
on
they
everything
did
you're
not
saying.
find that.
Yes,
Y'all
they
didn't
did.
answer the question. You're trying to evade the situation.
Oh, I don't need to evade anything. It's been thrust in my
apparently
face.
you are. You just said on record that you live there.
Second, we have okay. Who did the motion? Okay, you're not in order anymore, Mr. Snipes. No, 5 minutes. Point of order was made. Your microphone's off.
Ms. Snipes, I'm going to send you the timeline. I'm going to send you the timeline.
We're not entitled to our own facts.
Meaning, you stated the fact when you said my last day is November 6th. You were appointed on November 8th.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Those opposed?